Every day is a new opportunity for learning, and I hope my experiences can help others navigate this phase of life with more understanding and serenity. 1. Facing the reality of time and mortality. When I was young, I thought time was infinite. I remember spending hours playing baseball with my friends, not worrying about the clock. Today, every minute seems precious. Not long ago, I was cleaning out my closet and found an old photo album. I saw images of myself at 30, 40, 50 years old. It was a moment of deep reflection. I realized how many things I've already lived through and how many I still want to experience. This awareness of limited time sometimes scares me, I confess. There are days when I wake up thinking, I need to make the most of every moment. This can be motivating, but also stressful. I learned that the secret lies in balance. Now, I make a mental list every morning. What really matters today? Sometimes it's calling a friend I haven't spoken to in ages. Other times, it's simply enjoying breakfast calmly, savoring the aroma of fresh bread. Accepting that time is finite has helped me value the present more. Just yesterday, I spent the afternoon teaching my grandson how to play chess. In the past, I might have considered this a waste of time. Today, I know these moments are the most valuable. 2. Dealing with physical and mental decline. The changes in the body. I remember when I could run miles without getting tired. Now, a walk to the grocery store leaves me breathless. At first, this frustrated me a lot. One day, I tried to lift a heavy box like I used to. The result? I had back pain for a week. That's when I realized I needed to accept my new limitations and find alternatives. I started practicing yoga. At first, I thought it was a young person's thing, but I was surprised. Yoga helped me not only with flexibility, but also with breathing and balance. Today, I practice every morning and I feel much better. As for the mind, I confess that the memory lapses scared me at first. I would forget where I had left my glasses, a neighbor's name. I was worried about Alzheimer's. I talked to my doctor, who reassured me and suggested mental exercises. I started doing crossword puzzles and Sudoku. I also started reading more. I chose to revisit some classics I read in my youth, like To Kill a Mockingbird. It was fascinating to see how my interpretation had changed with age. Moreover, I decided to learn something new. I'm taking painting classes. I was never good at arts, but I'm loving the challenge. Each painting, even if imperfect, is a victory for my brain. 3. Facing loneliness and isolation. Loneliness. That's a tough one. When my wife passed away 5 years ago, I felt like part of me had gone too. Our house, once so full of life, became silent. At first, I isolated myself. I would go days without talking to anyone other than the supermarket cashier. My children would call, but I always said I was fine, not wanting to worry them. It was my 10-year-old granddaughter who saved me. She came to visit and said, "Grandpa, why don't you come see my school play?" That simple invitation was the push I needed. I went to the play and met other grandparents. We started talking, and I discovered many felt like I did. A lady, Mrs. Johnson, invited me to a reading group at the library. I hesitated but decided to go. It was the best decision. In the group, we not only discussed books, but also our lives. I made new friends, people who understand the challenges of this phase of life. I also started making video calls with my grandchildren. At first, I found it complicated, but they taught me patiently. Now every week we have our virtual story time, where I read stories to them. Loneliness still shows up sometimes, especially at night. But I've learned that staying connected, either in person or virtually, makes all the difference. 4. Dealing with regrets and unfulfilled dreams. Recently, I found an old diary of mine. In it, there was a list of dreams I made when I was 20. I confess I got emotional seeing how many were left behind. I always wanted to learn to play the piano, but never had the time. I wanted to travel to Italy, the land of my grandparents, but always postponed it. For a moment, I felt sad and regretful, but then I thought, why not start now? Sure, I may not become a concert pianist, but I can learn to play my favorite song. And Italy. Well, I may not climb Mount Vesuvius, but I can certainly enjoy a good Italian wine in Rome. I decided to make a new list, dreams to fulfill after 70. On it, I put simple and grand things, from learning to make a perfect tiramisu to writing my memoirs. I've already started. I'm taking online Italian lessons. It's challenging, but each word I learn brings me a little closer to that dream trip. And you know what? I'm having a lot of fun in the process. I realize that although some dreams have been left behind, there's still much to be lived and accomplished. Age brings limitations, it's true, but it also gives us the wisdom to appreciate small achievements. 5. The challenge of staying relevant. The other day, I was on the bus and overheard two young people talking about an app. I didn't understand anything they were saying. For a moment, I felt like a dinosaur, completely out of sync with the modern world. But then I remembered the advice I always gave my students when I was a teacher. Curiosity is the key to knowledge. I decided it was time to apply this to myself. I asked for help from my 15-year-old grandson. He was surprised and happy to teach me. We spent an entire afternoon exploring my smartphone. I learned how to use WhatsApp, take and send photos, even use Google Maps. Of course, I still fumble sometimes. The other day, I accidentally sent a funny sticker to the entire family group when I wanted to send it just to my daughter. Everyone laughed, and so did I. I also decided to stay updated on current affairs. I started reading not only the printed newspaper, but also some news websites. I discovered that I can contribute to discussions with my life experience, offering a different perspective. Last week, I participated in a debate at the neighborhood association about climate change. I was happy to share what the city river was like in my childhood and how it has changed. My account helped raise awareness about the importance of environmental preservation. I stay relevant not by trying to be who I'm not, but by offering the best I have, my experience and willingness to learn. 6. Finding purpose in later life. When I retired, I confess I felt a bit lost. Going from an active university professor to a retiree was a shock. Suddenly, I had no more classes to prepare, no students to guide. I felt purposeless. In the first few months, I spent hours watching TV, not really enjoying my time. My daughter noticed my lack of enthusiasm and suggested I do volunteer work. Initially, I resisted. I thought, what can an old history professor, offer? But I decided to try. I started giving tutoring classes to underprivileged children at the community center. It was transformative. Seeing those children's eyes light up when understanding a new concept reminded me why I loved teaching. It wasn't just about history. It was about inspiring curiosity and love for knowledge. Moreover, I rediscovered my passion for writing. I started writing short stories based on my life experiences. I share them on a blog that my grandson helped me create. To my surprise, people of all ages are reading and relating to them. I also started tending to a small garden on the balcony. Each plant that grows gives me a sense of accomplishment. Sharing the seedlings with neighbors has become a form of connection. I realized that purpose doesn't have to be grandiose. Sometimes it's in the small things. A smile from a child who learned something new, a kind comment on my blog, or a flower that blooms in my garden. 7. Navigating changing relationships. Relationships, how they change over time. When I was younger, I had a large circle of friends from work and the neighborhood. Today, that circle has shrunk, but it has become deeper. I lost touch with many colleagues after retirement. At first, this saddened me, but I realized that some bonds were more circumstantial than true friendships. On the other hand, some friendships have strengthened. My friend Tom, for example. We've known each other for 50 years, but only now, in retirement, do we have time to really talk and share. Our weekly chess matches have become a sacred ritual. With family, dynamics have also changed. My children, once so dependent, now have their own lives. At first, I felt a bit left out, but I learned to respect their space and value the moments we spend together. Surprisingly, I developed a closer relationship with my teenage grandchildren. They teach me about technology, and I share stories from the past. It's a rich exchange that brought us closer in a way I didn't expect. I also opened myself to new relationships. In the reading group I attend, I met Mrs. Anderson. At 80 years old, she has contagious energy. We developed a beautiful friendship based on common interests and mutual support. I learned to be more flexible in relationships. Sometimes, a video call with my daughter who lives far away is as meaningful as a hug. A loving emoji from a grandchild can brighten my day as much as a visit. The secret, I discovered, is to keep the heart and mind open. I value old friendships, nurture family relationships, and allow myself to form new bonds. Each person who enters our life brings a new color to our canvas. 8. Caring for adult children or grandchildren. I never imagined that at 75, I would be taking care of others. I thought it would be the opposite, but life surprises us. My daughter went through a difficult divorce last year. Suddenly, she and my 2 teenage grandchildren were living with me. It was quite an adjustment. At first, I was happy to be able to help, but soon I felt overwhelmed. Preparing meals for 4, dealing with teenage crises, providing emotional support to my daughter. All this while trying to maintain my own routine. I realized I needed to set boundaries. I talked to my daughter and explained that although I love them all, I also needed my own space. We decided to create a family schedule. Everyone has their responsibilities, including the grandchildren. I also reserve time just for myself. Every afternoon from 4 to 6 is my reading and relaxation time. The family knows they should only interrupt me in case of an emergency. Caring for them has brought me challenges, but also unexpected joys. I have deep conversations with my grandchildren that I probably wouldn't have if we weren't living together. And seeing my daughter regaining her confidence is rewarding. However, I also learned the importance of self-care. I keep my medical appointments up to date, practice my yoga, and don't hesitate to ask for help when I need it. I discovered that it's possible to be a safe harbor for the family without drowning in the process. The secret lies in balance and open communication. 9. Adjusting to retirement and financial changes. The transition to retirement was one of the biggest challenges I faced. After decades following a routine, suddenly I found myself with all the time in the world and less money than I was used to. At first, I spent as if I was still receiving my professor's salary. The result: in a few months, I saw my savings decrease rapidly. It was a shock. I sat down with my daughter, who works in finance, and we made a plan. I learned to create a monthly budget, something I had never done before. It was revealing to see where my money was going. I had to make some lifestyle adjustments. I traded the expensive club for walks in the park. I learned to look for promotions at the supermarket. I discovered that the public library offers many of the books I used to buy, but it wasn't all about cutting expenses. I learned to invest a small part of my money in low-risk applications. It's gratifying to see my money grow, even if it's just a little. As for routine, I confess that in the first few months I felt lost. I slept late, spent hours watching TV. I didn't feel productive. That's when I decided to create a new routine for myself. Now I wake up early every day, I do my yoga, have a quiet breakfast reading the newspaper. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I give volunteer classes. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I go to the park to walk with a group of retired friends. The afternoons are for my personal projects, writing, tending to the garden, or learning something new on the internet. At night, sometimes I go out for a movie or dinner with friends, always looking for senior discounts. I learned that retirement is not the end, but a new beginning. With financial planning and a balanced routine, I discovered that I can live well and still achieve new dreams. 10. Dealing with changing relationships. Relationships, how they change over time. When I was younger, I had a large circle of friends from work and the neighborhood. Today, that circle has shrunk, but it has become deeper. I lost touch with many colleagues after retirement. At first, this saddened me, but I realized that some bonds were more circumstantial than true friendships. On the other hand, some friendships have strengthened. My friend Bob and I, for example, we've known each other for 50 years, but only now, in retirement, do we have time to really talk and share. Our weekly chess matches have become a sacred ritual. With family, dynamics have also changed. My children, once so dependent, now have their own lives. At first, I felt a bit left out, but I learned to respect their space and value the moments we spend together. Surprisingly, I developed a closer relationship with my teenage grandchildren. They teach me about technology, and I share stories from the past. It's a rich exchange that brought us closer in a way I didn't expect. I also opened myself to new relationships. In the reading group I attend, I met Mrs. Thompson. At 80 years old, she has contagious energy. We developed a beautiful friendship based on common interests and mutual support. I learned to be more flexible in relationships. Sometimes, a video call with my daughter who lives far away is as meaningful as a hug. A loving emoji from a grandchild can brighten my day as much as a visit. The secret, I discovered, is to keep the heart and mind open. I value old friendships, nurture family relationships, and allow myself to form new bonds. Each person who enters our life brings a new color to our canvas. 11. Facing the loss of loved ones. This is, without a doubt, one of the hardest parts of aging. In recent years, I've lost my wife, some close friends, and even one of my children. Each loss was like losing a piece of myself. When Sarah, my wife, passed away 5 years ago, I thought I couldn't go on. We had been married for 45 years. Suddenly, the house felt too big, too quiet. At first, I isolated myself. The pain was so great that I didn't want to see anyone, but my daughter insisted that I seek help. Reluctantly, I started attending a support group for the bereaved. It was there that I met other people going through the same situation. Sharing our stories, our pains, and even some smiles helped me realize that I wasn't alone. One of the things I learned in the group was the importance of honoring the memory of those who are gone. I started writing a journal, remembering special moments with Sarah. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I laugh, but I always feel connected to her. When I lost my son Michael in an accident 2 years ago, the pain was different. Losing a child goes against the natural order of things. It was the most difficult moment of my life, but somehow, the previous experience with grief helped me face this new loss. I learned to accept that pain comes and goes in waves. There are days when I feel good, others when the longing is strong, and that's okay. There's no deadline for grief. One thing that has been helping me is keeping alive the memories of those who are gone. On Michael's birthday, we gather as a family to plant a tree in his memory. Seeing this tree grow a little each year is comforting. I also discovered that helping others can be therapeutic. I started volunteering at a hospital, talking to terminal patients and their families. Sharing my experience and offering comfort gives new meaning to my pain. Loss is never easy, but I learned that it's possible to move forward, carrying with us the love and memories of those who have departed. 12. Managing chronic health conditions. With age, our body starts to present us with some extra challenges. In my case, type 2 diabetes and hypertension have become constant companions. At first, I confess I was scared by all the necessary care, measuring glucose, taking medicines at certain times, changing my diet. It seemed like my life had turned into a series of restrictions. But over time, and with the help of my doctor, I learned to see this care not as limitations, but as part of my self-care routine. I bought one of those pill organizers with compartments for the days of the week. It seems like a simple thing, but it made all the difference in keeping my medications in order. Diet was quite a challenge. I loved my sweets, but I discovered that there are tasty and healthy alternatives. My granddaughter introduced me to Nice Cream, a frozen banana ice cream. Delicious, and it doesn't affect my glucose. I also started practicing Tai Chi in the park. Besides helping with my balance, which was getting a bit unstable, I discovered that it's great for controlling blood pressure. And the best part, I made new friends in the group. I learned the importance of staying informed about my conditions. But then I remember, this care is what allows me to stay active and enjoy life. It's a small price to pay for the quality of life I have. 13. Combating age discrimination and social stereotypes. I never imagined there would come a day when I would feel invisible to society, but unfortunately, prejudice against the elderly is real and painful. I remember one particular situation that marked me. I went to an electronics store to buy a smartphone. The salesman, a young guy, addressed my grandson who was accompanying me, completely ignoring me. When I insisted that I was the one making the purchase, he started talking to me as if I were incapable of understanding technology. At that moment, I felt anger and frustration, but I decided to turn this experience into something positive. I started educating myself more about technology. I took a computer course at the local library and, to the surprise of many, including myself, I became quite skilled with gadgets. Another stereotype I face is the idea that older people are always sick or fragile. Once, I was offered a seat on the bus in such a condescending way that I felt offended. I thanked politely, but remained standing, showing that I still have strength and balance. I realized that many of these prejudices come from the lack of contact between generations. So, I decided to get involved in intergenerational projects. I started participating in a program where seniors tell stories to children at school. It's gratifying to see how fascinated the children are with our experiences. I also started to position myself more firmly against ageist comments. When someone makes a joke about forgetful old people, I politely explain why it's offensive. Often, people don't even realize they're being prejudiced. One thing I learned is the importance of not internalizing these stereotypes. I continue to learn, challenge myself, and live fully. I make a point of staying updated on world events and actively participating in my community. Recently, I was invited to give a lecture at the local university on proactive aging. It was a wonderful opportunity to show young people that age is just a number and that we have a lot to contribute to society. Combating age discrimination is a daily challenge, but each small victory, each mind we manage to open, is a step in the right direction. 14. Cultivating emotional resilience and mental well-being. Reaching old age is not for the faint of heart. Over the years, we face losses, changes, and challenges that can shake our mental health. I learned that taking care of emotional well-being is as important as taking care of physical health. A few years ago, I went through a difficult period. Retirement, coupled with the loss of some close friends, left me in a state of deep melancholy. I realized I was isolated and without enthusiasm for activities that used to give me pleasure. It was my granddaughter who noticed something wasn't right. She suggested I seek professional help. Initially, I resisted. In my generation, going to a psychologist was seen as a taboo. But, fortunately, I decided to give it a chance. Therapy was a turning point for me. I learned techniques to deal with negative thoughts and the importance of expressing my feelings. The therapist helped me develop coping strategies for difficult days. One of the most valuable things I learned was the practice of gratitude. Every night before going to sleep, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for that day. Sometimes they're big things, like a visit from a child. Other times, they're small joys, like the taste of breakfast. This practice changed my perspective on life. I also discovered the power of meditation. At first, I thought it was a young person's thing, but I was surprised by the benefits. I started with just 5 minutes a day, using a guided meditation app. Today, these moments of silence and reflection are essential to maintain my inner peace. Physical exercise also proved fundamental to my mental health. I started taking daily walks in the park. Besides the physical benefits, contact with nature and meeting other people significantly improved my mood. Another thing that has been helping me is staying intellectually active. I do crossword puzzles, read books on various subjects, and recently started learning a new language online. Keeping the brain active is not only fun, but also gives me a sense of progress and accomplishment. I learned the importance of maintaining meaningful social connections. I make sure to keep regular contact with friends and family, either in person or by phone. These bonds are fundamental to combat loneliness and maintain a positive perspective. Finally, I discovered the importance of being kind to myself. There are days when I don't feel so good, and that's okay. I learn to accept that emotions come and go, and it's normal to have ups and downs. Cultivating emotional resilience is an ongoing process. Each day brings new challenges, but also new opportunities for growth. With the right tools and a positive attitude, it's possible not only to face the challenges of aging, but to flourish in this phase of life.